Chris Wilder is back, baby. Can't believe it. Absolutely can't believe it. I didn't think that the owners would have the cojones, rhymed, kind of, to bring Chris Wilder back. And I'm so glad they did, because there's absolutely nobody that has got the ability to get these exact players off their knees and back playing football. These players don't become bad footballers overnight. I'm not saying that we've not lost some key players like Enel, like Vini Souza, and those two would certainly still play in this team right now. But I think we have strengthened from last season. I actually do. I think we've got a better overall squad. Some might disagree, but only time will tell, because we don't know how they're going to react to Chris Wilder and his style of football. Sumere seemed to get the boot from Sellers already, so we'll see what happens with Wilder. But you know, I'm excited. I'm gutted also, because I'm at this moment in time in Newquay. As you can see, I'm in the car. I am not in my setup, and I'm doing a video on here, which is a fans react, because I've not done anything about Chris Wilder so far. So I'm really excited to bring this video to you, because, you know, I've just done TalkSport, which is the first time I've spoken about the Saez Wilder debacle. Yeah, excited to talk about Wilder. And what I am gutted about is the fact that I'm here at Newquay until Sunday, so I miss the Charlton game, which is the homecoming of Chris Wilder. Homecoming? Can you really call it a homecoming when he was sat in the dugout 4 months ago, something like that? Not sure. But either way, it's going to be exciting. I'm expecting to start picking points up now. We've got to start with a win against Charlton, surely. If not, just a point. Get a point on the board. Try and get above Wednesday, because it's getting embarrassing now, Blades. It's getting embarrassing. So let's sort ourselves out. Let's get flying up that division. Exciting times are ahead, I'm sure.
Chris Wilder, back. So good, they did it thrice. It's from the outside looking in, if you weren't a Blade, you'd think we're a bit of a joke club. Like, it doesn't make sense. First of all, sacking someone that did so well last season, appointing someone that, finished fourth from bottom with Hull to replace a man that got you, 90, 92 without the deduction points. And then that doesn't work, surprisingly. And then just bringing the same guy back again when you've given them like a severance payment. I don't really know what that looks like, because I'm not a neutral. I'm very much invested. I do think if you're looking just at CVs, obviously Chris Wilder would be a top candidate for Sheffield United. So if you ignore the fact that he's been a player twice, a manager now 3 times, previously twice, but he's the most successful manager, 9th in the Premier League, the best that I've ever experienced in my life. So I hope that we can do that again. Might take a bit of work. He's certainly got defenders now. Let's see how it goes. We've lost Vini Souza and Ahmedhodzic from when he was here before, but he's taken that time to do up the house, and hopefully he's refreshed and ready to go. I think it's just going to be so interesting from this point onwards. Lane's going to be rocking.
He's once, twice, 3 times the Blades boss, to misquote Lionel Richie. So Chris Wilder's back. How do I feel about that? Mixed. I'm going to be honest, it's mixed feelings. There was a reason that he left in the summer. I personally didn't think he would have been able to take us forward in the Premier League. That's not a dig at Chris in any way, shape or form. It's just the way I felt that the club needed to change if they were going to push. And the idea behind Ruben Saez was, in my view, right, but the wrong man, and it has, backfired spectacularly in an 88-day ill-fated spell. I spoke a few weeks ago when he said what did the future hold for Saez, and it was give him the 2 weeks, work with the players and probably give him 4 or 5 games. Ipswich showed that was wrong. Anyway, Ruben's a thing of the past. Chris Wilder, he is the man who will galvanise this football club. He will certainly get the players playing for that red and white shirt of Sheffield United. He's certainly got the fans on board, a lot of the fans on board. Now, there were the fans who wanted rid of him at the end of last season as well, let's not forget. Some will be eating humble pie, myself included. But let's see what Chris can do. Hopefully we'll start to climb the league. I don't think there'll be any form of relegation danger, anything like that. Can we push into the playoffs? Well, 41 games, 123 points to play for, 2 points a game, 82. That's going to be in the playoffs. Would 82 get automatic promotion? There's a chance. But going back for a third time, I do have a few doubts on that. He's lost the transfer window, but a couple of those at the end of the transfer window. Chris Wilder signings, he always wanted Tanganga. Ben Mee stinks of a Chris Wilder signing, if you ask me. I'm not saying he was involved, but you do have to wonder. Anyway, back to normal, back with Chris Wilder in charge of the Blades. Time to start climbing the league. Fans, get behind them on Saturdays, I'm sure you will. Here we go, the season starts now. He's Chrissy Wilder, he's one of our own.
So, Wilder's back. Makes the club look a little bit foolish, in my opinion, bringing him back after sacking him, but I can see the logic behind it. I did think he should go. I did think he'd taken us as far as he could and the football was poor. But the Sellers experiment has been a total disaster despite promising signs pre-season. And the main reason I think it's a good thing that Wilder's back is for the players. The players just look absolutely broken, especially Cooper, and O'Hare looked like he was about to burst into tears after the Ipswich match. And I do think that Sellers just could not work with these players for whatever reason, and maybe they did resent him, maybe they were unhappy about Wilder going, who knows. But if he can come back and get them firing and work with the new signings, which Sellers appears to have fallen out with Samari already, and he was barely played. We've got some good players in now in Tanganga, Matas, Ogbene. If Wilder can work a bit of magic, get that team spirit back, get them all playing, then I think it will have been a good decision to bring him back. And, you know, well, can it get worse? Mick McCarthy said it could. It didn't appear that it could get any worse, so I'm optimistic. The only way is up the Blades.
Chris Wilder is coming back for a third time as Sheffield United manager. I can understand that that's probably going to divide the fan base again, but I agree with what Ollie said the other night. He is our only best and safest option at this moment in time to get the club out of the current position they are in. I actually think we got worse under Sellers as games went on. Friday night was the absolute epitome of that. After a 2-week international break, that was our worst performance by a country mile. You leave the reigning championship player of the season on the bench, you leave our top scorer from last season on the bench, and players just look shadows of the former selves. I actually think Sadie Peck's interview before the game said everything. His body language was very apparent, and I don't think the players wanted to play for him anymore. And by the end of that 90 minutes, that was very evident, as well as the fans obviously calling time on his regime. For me, I'm grateful that the board have made that decision, but I'm also very grateful that they've come out and admitted that it was their mistake, and that's why they've gone back to Chris, because many would argue that he never should have been sacked in the first place. What I think we now need from the board is much more clear and direct communication to the fan base, because since they've taken over in January, that has been non-existent. I do also agree with what Ollie said on the stream. It is about time that we look for a restructure at the top of the club, bringing in a footballing mind and a bridge between the ownership / board and the management of the team, you know, to be that voice of reason, to be that advisor. And for me, that means moving on from Stephen Bettis and bringing in someone who has either coached in the game or played in the game themselves. The most important message that I think we can all take from any video tonight is to just get behind them on Saturday. It's going to be a much different atmosphere. It's going to be a much different feeling. You know, in many ways, I can't wait. And I'm just looking forward to the game. But I think it is important for us as fans to actually get behind them. That has been lacking at home in the last couple of years, and I think that's something that we could look to improve, you know, as a fan base, you know, our support at home, just in general, really. So I'm very excited. I do think Ollie again hit the nail on the head that whatever happens this season, or you know, in the next couple of years, which is when Wilder's contract runs out, is to let this come to a natural conclusion, because if we don't, we're never going to be able to move on from Chris Wilder.
Far, far away, sunny Greek island, I left Yorkshire back in April, searching my dreams. Hopefully, Blades were going to make it through the playoffs and get ourselves in the Prem. It didn't happen, and all of a sudden a nightmare ensued. What could we do? We had some Spanish guy at the top, and it was just going from bad to worse. The team was devoid of confidence, looked like they had no style, and things were just going and going downhill. 5 games in, we're at the bottom of the table. Include the cup match, that's 6. Things really had to change. And there was only one man to do it. Chris, thankfully, has come back, and he's going to be the one man to change it. He'll get confidence back in the team, he'll get structure in the team, we'll have a style of play, and it will certainly be interesting. I don't think it's all going to be rainbows and butterflies, but actually Chris is the man to do it. Medium term, I think he could have some issues on his hands. I'm not sure pre-season worked particularly well, and I'm not sure the pre-season fitness worked. You could see that Sellis unfortunately was losing the dressing room even in the early phases of the pre-season friendlies. So where do we go? What do we do? Well, Chris has got to work on this, and he's got to work on the move, because we're in mid-season. Yeah, okay, we've got an international break he'll be able to look at, and we go from there. When we look at longer term, what does Chris do? We know we're all limited. Everybody has their own challenges, and so does Chris. He's got a new team around him. The likes of Jack Lester, Keith Andrews, etc. have all gone. So he's got to form a new team. He's got to do new things. And hopefully this will take us to the next level. Longer term, that's got to be the way forward. And hopefully Chris, the Messiah, he will manage to do it.
Here's my take on Chris Wilder being appointed as Sheffield United manager for the 3rd time. In short, I think he's the right man for the position that we're in at the moment. That position being dead last in the Championship table, 5 games played, 1 goal scored, 0 points on the table. We need as short a transition as possible to get this team up and running. And who better to do that than the man that they sacked 3 months ago with arguably a weaker squad than what we've got now. So yeah, right man for right now. In terms of the mid to long term, all of those questions that the board presumably had when they sacked him and made that decision 3 months ago still remain. Is he the man that's able to establish as a Premier League club and keep us there? I don't know, but all of those thoughts of the Premier League right now feel so far off our present reality. So he's the right man for right now.
Chris Wilder is back as Blades boss. This is brilliant news, but ultimately I do think that it is embarrassing for the owners. They made such a big call just months ago to get rid of Wilder and really split the fan base. And now they've been forced into making a complete U-turn, and we've wasted the first 6 weeks of the season on this experiment that did not work. So I think it is definitely the right thing moving forward, and I'm immediately way more optimistic about our chances this season, but I don't think it looks good on them. But anyway, Wilder's back. He will get the most out of this squad. Players will run through brick walls for Chris Wilder. We've heard that in interviews the entire time he's been at United. Way back in League One, up until now, players have said in interviews that he just gets them believing, he gets them playing, and he really gets the club. It sounds stupid to say that this is such an important thing with a manager, but Wilder gets it like no one else. He makes that difference. The fans will believe in him. The atmosphere is going to be so much better on Saturday. And Wilder, because he's done it so many times in the past, he has bought that patience for the fans. When things aren't going right, they are so much slower to turn on him because he's been there, he's done it. And Sellers didn't get the club, couldn't get the most out of the players, so he had to go, unfortunately. But now Wilder's back, things could turn. Bring on Saturday, up with the Blades.
Well, as someone who was in the camp of wanting Wilder to have another crack this season, I guess I got what I wanted just about 89 days later than I thought I would get it. You can't fault the decision made to move on from the disaster class that was the Ruben Zayas regime at United. But my questions around this ownership group obviously remain. Some may look at this Wilder reappointment as a lack of ambition. I suppose you could also argue that it's just a bit of pragmatism of saying, hands up, we got it wrong. Let's go back to the way things were. But it does make me wonder what kind of plans B, C, and D that we all know you need in football, this ownership group has by going back to Wilder. Now, that being said, from a footballing standpoint, let's get back to what this team does well. Wilder's teams usually, for the most part, defend fairly well, and they're competitive in games. You know, this is a team that should have been challenging for promotion, no matter who the manager was. So hopefully Wilder can just really kickstart this team and get us moving up the table. That being said, the rest of the league has now had a 5-game head start on us. So we've got to be really careful about managing our expectations as a fan base, because essentially, last year we started on -2 points. This year we've started on -15, if you like, from those 5 matches under Ruben Saez. So lots of work to be done on the pitch. My concerns still lie more off the pitch with really what the future is for this club, what the plans are. These talks about bringing the Prince back in an advisory role really just lead me to have very little confidence that this ownership group has the right footballing people in place and even the right business people in place to move this club forward. I don't want it to come to the end of the season and we finish 7th or we finish 6th and lose in the playoffs and we sack Wilder again and look for the next one again. I think we really need to make sure we have some type of succession plan in place here. I would even argue that after a couple of years, we find Wilder a job at the club, be it director of football or something else, where we've got a plan now to move on and progress the club forward so we don't have to keep taking steps backward. All that being said, as a fan, as somebody who really appreciates having a fan of the club lead the club, I'm thrilled that he's back. I'm thrilled to see how we do against Charlton, and I'm really looking forward now with some newfound optimism to the rest of the season. So fingers crossed, let's see what the next few months hold for this football club, and as always, up the Blades.
Ole, ole, ole.